Alright, greetings ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another TBC Classic Guide. My name is Cargos, and today we will be discussing racials, more specifically Horde racials. So let's get right into it. Here's the agenda for today's video. I'm going to quickly introduce my fellow co-authors and do a couple shout-outs, and then we're going to get into Classic versus TBC racials and just how the racials perform in either context. Then I'll give you my two cents thoughts on Alliance versus Horde. We'll move into just understanding what expertise is really quick, which is a new stat introduced in the Burning Crusade. Then we'll get into the meat and potatoes, do a deep dive on racials, and try to look at all the significant racials and changes from every possible dimension, and we'll finish up with a few tier lists. So let's get into it. Here are my fellow co-authors on this project, my man Navik and my man Crix. They're both really good friends of mine. Navik is one of the sharpest and brightest minds when it just comes to World of Warcraft in general. He just understands the game through and through, every mechanic, the physics, everything about it. He's been such a good mentor and help to me with making content over the years. So shout out to him. Gladiator Rogue Season 1, Season 2. Top 50 Endless Rogue in threes on Rogue. I rolled an Endless with him. I rolled Restokin, and he was a human Rogue, and he was showing me the ropes at TBC Arena. Then we have Crix here, who's he quit Classic 6 months ago or so, and he's been going hard, raiding on multiple Warlocks, Alliance, and Horde, just going sponge mode, absorbing everything he possibly can about TBC, networking with some of the sharpest tools in the shed, and he's learned a great deal and made so many of these connections here. So shout out to these guys. I'm going to throw their links to their streams and channels down in the description below. Okay, so I just want to quickly shout out Warrior TSW, main tank for Memory on Netherwing, and Dr. Kale, Prot Paladin, GM, and Raid Leader for Get Carried on multiple TBC private servers. Also shout out to Ale, 70 Dwarf Priest on Endless, fully cleared all content back in the day, Vanilla WoW, currently raiding in Onslaught on Scarum. Very sweaty, amazing guild, and he's a beast. Okay. Racials in TBC versus racials in Classic. We'll blaze through this because I touched on this on my part 1 of this racials series on the Alliance side. But pretty much in PvE, in Classic, most if not all of us have played Classic, right? Melee stacking is the meta. You stack melee warriors and rogues, and your whole raid composition is based around that. Melee is super dominant, and the weapon skill racials have a very high impact for melee as they mitigate glancing blow damage reduction, they affect itemization, big deal, right? In PvP, everything goes in Classic. Every gadget, gizmo, consumable, item, potion, everything you can think of, grenades. So any potential imbalance, right? Any potential favored matchup when it comes to rogue versus mage, or if one race's racial is slightly better than another one. There's so much counterplay in Classic due to the sheer breadth of all these different items and stuff that racials in a PvP context maybe don't mean as much, just because there's so much other options for counterplay. Anyway, racials in TBC. 2 new races, Draenei for the Alliance, Blood Elf for the Horde, and there's no more faction-based classes. So Alliance have Shamans in the form of Draenei, Horde have Paladins in the form of Blood Elves, and there's also a Rita introduced. So this is the first time in World of Warcraft that we're getting this templated, instanced PvP environment. It's surgical, it's precise, it's sterile. You can't use gadgets and gizmos. And in this environment, racials really shine. And if you get with any of the top PvPers who have played this, TBC at a high level, they'll tell you it's make or break. It's the difference between Gladiator, 100%. So they view these racials in super high esteem, and they will absolutely choose a race because it's better in PvP, which we'll get into. Weapon skill racials, they turn into expertise racials, as we'll see here in a second. And a lot of people think moving into TBC, these racials are no longer impactful. They no longer move the needle that much. That is far from the truth. These expertise racials are high impact, and we'll get into them in a second. So quickly want to just blaze through what is expertise. It's kind of confusing. It was for me at least, and I've really solidified my understanding of this in the past couple days here doing research for this. So each 1 expertise will reduce the chance an enemy will dodge or parry by 1/4%. Sounds pretty simple, right? So you might be thinking to yourself, okay, 1 expertise, that makes me hit my target 1/4% more. And you wouldn't be wrong, but it's not hit. Your attacks will connect with that target 1/4% more, but it's not because you're boosting your hit rating. It's because that target is dodging or parrying 1/4% less. So there's a difference also between expertise and expertise rating. Expertise rating is what you get on gear. You need 3.9423 expertise rating for 1 expertise gear. You can see an example of a piece with expertise on it. This is Mallet of the Tides. Phenomenal tanking mace out of SSC from Lurker. So that's that. But anyway, to go back to this, the racials give you 5 expertise in a specific weapon. So orcs get axes, humans get swords and maces. Now, if you're a human rogue fighting a Naga in Isle of Keldanas, and you're fighting a Naga for your daily, and it's facing you, it's able to dodge, parry, block, all of the avoidance stuff is on the table, right? So if a mob is facing you, 5 expertise from your racial is going to make it so 2.5% more of your attacks will land on target. That's a big deal. 2.5 is a big chunk. And it's because that mob is able to dodge or parry. Now this affects tanks in a really meaningful way because tanks are facing the boss. If you're a melee DPS like a rogue, you're probably fighting from behind the boss, so you're only going to get half the value from expertise as a tank would, or somebody who's facing the mob. So this is a big deal, and there's also a slight defensive component here too, because if the mob is parrying less, that means they're getting parry hasted less, right? Parry haste is after you parry, either you or a enemy parries, whatever's remaining on your swing timer. Let's say I just swung a 3-second weapon. Let's say I have 2.99 left on that swing. If I just parry right at that point, 40% of that 2.99 seconds is going to be shaved off. So TLDR, I'm going to be hit again pretty rapidly. So if a mob is parrying less, you're going to be taking less damage as a result of parry hasted attacks. Okay, and this affects both yellows and whites, which is a big deal as well. So your yellow specials as well as just your regular white right clicks. Okay, then so 5 expertise from a rogue is a 1.25% more of your attacks will hit the target. But if the mob is facing you, it's 2.5. Okay, that's all I'm going to say about expertise for now. Moving on to expertise in PvP, it functions the same way in PvP, 0.25% per point. Some attacks in PvP, like Shiv, though, can't be dodged or parried and stuff, so it may be slightly less impactful in PvP, but still very much there. Okay, we're going to move on to Orcs, the first race of the day. My green screen brethren, my favorite race in the game. I think they look so cool. Here he is standing in the Valley of the Trials. Orcs are insane in TBC. They're the absolute cheese and rice. They are insane. Blood Fury has been changed in TBC so that it actually grants spell power now. It's like a Toep, 143 spell power. 2-minute cooldown. You either get 282 attack power or 143 spell power. That's insane. Sorry. You're going to see here in the following slides that when it comes to PvE DPS and stuff, usually if you can roll Orc is going to be the best damage for you. But again, choose races based on the totality of everything you're going to do in the game. You may not only PvE, you may PvE to PvP, so maybe you want to choose a different race. The comp you're going to run in 2s or 3s might change your race here, so just take everything into consideration. Next up is Command. This is slightly better in TBC, I'd say. Hunters actually get a bit more value from their pets in raids and stuff. And there's also Arena, so you get a really good amount of your damage as a Hunter in arenas from your pet. And Warlocks use their pets in Arena too. Warlocks in PvE are still going to sack their pets, most likely. Unless you're going to go that Felguard insane spec. AoE spec. But Hardiness is the next thing. This has been nerfed in TBC. This is 25% in vanilla. In TBC it's down to 15%. But this is still fantastic in TBC and is still considered by many to be an S-tier racial in PvP. These arena matches can really drag out, and sometimes they're wars of attrition, right? So over the course of 5 minutes of fighting, or even maybe 10 minutes of fighting, so many stuns are going to be thrown your way, and resisting a stun could be just the game-winning thing right there. The other implication to hardiness is that if you're an orc warrior, warriors in TBC more often than not go arms, right? They move that talent out of the protection tree, the one that gives you 15% stun resist. They moved it into the arms tree, so pretty much guarantee they're going to have that plus 15% resist. So that 15 plus this 15 plus your base 5% stun resist, 35% stun resist on orc warriors. Pretty nutter butters, which is quite good. So axe specialization is the other thing. I mean, orc, just everything here is great, but in like a tanking orc warrior is going to have a different weapon progression than another race because of this axes right now. And pretty much what this means is the Thrallmar axe you get, I forgot the name of it, but you get it at Exalted. You end up using that thing for so long, and it's a guaranteed reward, right? As long as you get Exalted with Thrallmar. You're actually going to skip King's Defender and Karazhan, that amazing sword, because it's not an axe, right? And you're going to use this all the way to, I think, SSC. Yeah, so everything matters here. Next up is Undead. Nothing changes here. Cannibalize, Wotif, Underwater Breathing. But again, the meta of TBC is different, so all of these things you have to take a second look at them. Cannibalize, yeah, there's not really any changes there. Wotif is an S tier racial in PvP and Arena, though. So good. 2-minute cooldown, breaks fear, charm, sleep. amazing. The only class where it's not as amazing is probably Warrior. Undead Priest ratios, we have Touch of Weakness and Devouring Plague. These are both really good. I believe Touch of Weakness throws up a curse, right? This can proc Blackout. You can downrank it. Devouring Plague deals really good damage. It costs a lot of mana though, but if you're doing some Shadow Play or something and you're playing really aggressive, Devouring Plague can be really good. Next up we have Trolls. So Trolls, solid race in TBC as well. Berserking in the context of TBC is maybe less powerful from a PvE perspective than it is in Classic. And the reason why is because in Classic, think about your guilds right now. How long does it take to kill a boss? 30 seconds, a minute 5? In TBC, the fights are way longer. And if you look at TBC private servers, it's a bit of an extreme because most of the TBC private servers are like 2.5x the difficulty of what people allege to be the base values. But even still, I mean, because so they have like 20-minute fights on these private servers, but even still in TBC, like the fights are a lot longer. So on a 1-minute fight in Classic, being able to take your gear off, put it back on, pop a Demonic Room, pop Berserking, and then get 30% haste for 10 seconds, which would be 10% of the fight, is really good. But but it is a 3-minute cooldown as opposed to the Blood Fury, which is a 2-minute cooldown. So let's say it's over the course of a 10-minute fight, you're only getting to use this 3 times. The first time would potentially be 30% haste, but the subsequent second and third times might only be 10% haste because your healers are going to top you off, right? And you can't take off the gear in combat. So most of the time, this is just going to be a 10% haste increase every 3 minutes, which is okay. But again, it's going to be worse than Orc comparatively. Okay. So next thing is Beast Slaying, damage dealt versus Beast. There are a few bosses and raids and stuff that are Beast, like the Horse and Karazhan and stuff. Regen, still the same. Bow specs has been changed to 1% crit, and they weirdly introduced throwing spec in here as well. Troll Priest ratios are phenomenal though, so this might be the things that you can love the most about Troll. This is like the real juicy stuff here if you want to go Troll Priest. Hex of Weakness is freaking insane in both Classic and also continuing on to TBC. It's a curse. It lasts for like 3 minutes. It makes if you're running with the Warlock, if you're doing Shadow Play, it's going to make other curses way stickier because this is a curse, and then the Curse of Tongues is a curse. It's so good. It's a baby Mortal Strike effect that you can throw up on the entire enemy team. You can use rank 1, which costs like no mana, will still throw up the same MS effect. Super good. Super good. This makes Shadow Play super scary because you don't have any MS effect in Shadow Play, but if you're a Troll Priest, you do. Okay, Shadow Guard. This can proc Blackout. It's kind of like a lightning shield. It deals damage, like reflect damage. Pretty good. No cooldown. It's good in Classic, good in TBC as well. Spell fodder, stuff like that. Okay, on to Tauren now. So Tauren, the main thing that sticks out here is War Stomp. They didn't change anything about it, but in the meta of TBC, War Stomp is insane, especially on Druid. Druids, a lot of people will tell you, are like the gods of TBC when it comes to Arena. When it comes to PvP in general, they just are so insane. When it comes to Cyclone, NS Cyclone, they have Life Bloom. Sorry, they just have so many tools, man. And oftentimes, as you're the Druid, you're going to be getting tunneled. So you got to get used to getting attacked by everybody and just trying to escape. Your whole thing as Druid is you're just desperately trying to get a second of breathing room so you can stabilize. I played a Night Elf Druid recently. Every second of my life, I was miserable, just wishing I had War Stomp because I just needed 1 global to recover, and I couldn't get that space because they just stay on you like wet on rice. War Stomp is an awesome tool. You can War Stomp and just around the corner. The endurance total health increase is also pretty good. It's total health increase by 5%. It's not stamina. So I think we did the math the other day. If you're like a tier 6 warrior, like in tier 6, this is approximately like 800 to 1,000 more health at that. So War Stomp is really good. I mean, it's good like dungeons, trash, all types of stuff. War Stomp's really solid. Next up, we have Blood Elves. Everybody loves Blood Elves. They do look pretty cool, I gotta say. Blizzard gave them 2 buttons you can click for racials, which is flashy. It does look flashy. They have Arcane Torrent and Mana Tap. So Arcane Torrent is a silence for 2 seconds. And it is good, but if you think about all the different races, it depends what you want to do, if you want to PvE or PvP, but you will see a lot of Blood Elf Paladins. But this is Navik made a point to stress that this isn't as hyped as people think this is like the best racial in the game. It's good, but it's a 2-second silence in melee range. You have to be pretty close. to use it, but it is good, and it works in tandem with mana tap. So mana tap is really interesting. I really like using mana tap, especially on something like a paladin, because as a paladin, you don't really have many options for pulling tools, right? You have your frisbee if you're holy, but mana tap is a 30-yard range, 30-second cooldown, costs you nothing. It'll sap a bit of mana from the target, and then it'll give you a buff for 10 minutes in the top right. Now, every time you use mana tap, you'll refresh this buff up to 10 minutes. If you have up to 3 stacks, you'll get some resources back when you do end up pulling the trigger and arcane torrenting. So here's mana tap. It's also good in arena to keep targets in combat as well. So if there's someone running away trying to get a drink off, you can just mana tap him and keep him in combat. So that's pretty good. And let's see, moving on to Blood Elf Priest racials. You have Consume Magic. This is new. Dispels one beneficial magical effect from the caster. Gives 120 to 155 mana. Of course, this is scaled up. At the higher ranks, in PvP, this can be pretty decent. You can consume something low impact and get some mana from it, and it'll be a good net gain of mana. In PvE, it's more of a liability. You can rip off a really hefty buff like Fort. So oftentimes this wouldn't be used in PvE, but this is the type of thing that you just have to use your judgment. Sometimes it might make sense to use this in a clutch spot. They also get Touch of Weakness, which is Undeads have as well, which is good. Can proc Blackout, as we said. Okay, now we're going to move on to the tier lists. PvE DPS. Basically, if you can be an orc, you're an orc. Their Blood Fury racial is just insane, and also expertise, and just the whole package of orc is insane. Then for mage, you want to be troll. This is the only thing that moves the needle directly in terms of casting your spells faster. Priest is going to be troll or undead. I don't think there's any definitive conclusion here. Maybe Devouring Plague. If you're going a Shadow Priest, you're trying to do more damage. Maybe it's better than troll. I'd say troll and undead are just kind of equal. Warlock is going to be orc, rogue orc, shaman orc. Paladin Blood Elf, it's your only option. Druid only option is Tauren, and hunter orc. Tanking raids. So this is a spicy discussion. There was a lot of back and forth with this. We consulted multiple main tanks of high-level raiding guilds doing TBC stuff, and there are reasons to go orc, troll, or Tauren. Some people are in the orc camp, some people are in the troll camp, some people are in the Tauren camp, and that can be a lengthy conversation. So just in the interest of time, I would say they're all pretty solid. If I had to say, gun to my head, which one I think would be the best, though, I think it would be orc, man, and it's mainly because your itemization is so much more chill. You go Thrallmar Axe, which I think it's called Warhammer or Warbringer or War something, into... Sorry. Oh, it's on the next slide. Warbringer, one-handed axe, into... which is Thrallmar rep, so it should be pretty easy to get, into Lurker Mace, into the Brutalizer. Now, if you went like Tauren or if you went Troll, you'd probably use King's Defender from Karazhan, but... Anyway, they're all pretty solid. Tauren will have more survivability, maybe better for tanking dungeons. The other thing that makes Warrior the best for tanking raids is the 15% stun resist. There's a lot of stuns in TBC, so this will be really good for you potentially. And there's also potentially, like if you're fighting farm content, or imagine you're doing a speed run, right? You're pumping, you're out-geared for the content, you crush it, you've been doing it for weeks on end. Blood Fury would be pretty good. You could just pop a coolie, have someone pain suppression you or whatever, and you could still use Blood Fury and get that higher threat lead, explosive threat lead, get another 240 AP off the bat. So I think Orc is the best personally, but Tauren and Troll are both really good, and the thing is, stuff hits really hard in TBC, so maybe the Tauren survivability is going to give you the edge. So anyway, Paladin, Blood Elf, only one option, Druid, Tauren. Yeah, you can start the fights naked as a troll, apparently. So that's pretty much it for tanking raids. And we have an arena tier list. I'll do this in a separate video. PvE racials tier list. Just wanted to show how everything stacks up real quick. You have a lot of these alliance racials up here. The Orc Axe specialization is right up there. S tier, so good. A tier, Blood Fury. Arcane Tauren as well, A tier. And it's because there's, in every single raid tier, there's trash, even during boss fights, that need to be silenced. So having this in the raid is really nice. This Arcane Tauren and Blood Fury is insane as well. So that's pretty much it, guys. That's it for this Horde Racials Guide for TBC. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something from this video. A lot more TBC stuff to come as we get closer and closer to to it coming out and potential beta and all that stuff. So stay tuned, comment, rate, subscribe. Thank you very much for your time and sticking with me for all these years at this point. Really appreciate it, guys. Have a good one.